Let's take a close look at what might be the biggest lottery winner tragedy in human history. You know how some people suddenly hit a massive jackpot, but because they have no clue how to manage it, they end up losing everything, and then some? Well, the Spanish Empire lived that exact scenario on a global imperial scale. Think of this as a system analysis for your Hidden Ledger channel, a deep dive into how a massive network crashed because of a total resource overload. I'm keeping it real and sticking to the facts without trimming a single detail. The falling giant on mountains of gold. Once upon a time, Spain basically held the entire world in the palm of its hand. Back in the 16th century, when people thought of a global superpower, they didn't think of Britain, they thought of Spain. For the first time ever, one single crown had root access to a global network stretching from Europe to Africa and from the Americas to Asia. They were so massive that the famous phrase, "the empire on which the sun never sets," was actually theirs long before the British borrowed it. But here's the kicker. The richest empire the world had ever seen collapsed under the sheer weight of its own treasure. This story matters to us today because, just like Spain, we often mistake a sudden inflow of cash for actual wealth. And buddy, when the crash finally comes, it's always brutal. The New World and the mountain that eats men. When Spain stumbled into the New World after 1492, they struck a jackpot so big it looked infinite. Gold and silver started pouring into Spanish hands in quantities no European king could even dream of. After toppling the Aztecs in Mexico, they hit the real motherlode a decade later in Peru, Potosí. They called Potosí the mountain that eats men because of its scale and the human cost of mining it. Between 1500 and 1650, Spain hauled more silver across the Atlantic than all of Europe had mined in the previous 1,000 years combined. This treasure didn't just change Europe, it launched global economy 1.0. Spain was the central server of the world. While the first English colony at Jamestown was just a swamp struggling to survive in 1607, Mexico City already had universities, printing presses, and massive cathedrals. Spain wasn't just ahead, they were playing a completely different game. Why the silver turned into poison? So where did the bug in the system start? Spain confused having treasure with being wealthy. The silver was real, but the way they used it turned their greatest strength into a fatal weakness. Inflation exploded. In just 100 years, prices quadrupled. Imagine sitting on a literal mountain of silver, but your citizens can't even afford bread or clothes. Why? Because money only has value when it's scarce enough for people to trust it. Think of it like a small town where bread costs 1 coin. Suddenly, 10 times more coins arrive, but the number of bakers stays the same. The bakers realize everyone is loaded, so they start charging 4 coins. The bread isn't better, your coins are just worth less. This was the price revolution. The elites who touched the silver first got rich, but the ordinary people living on fixed wages got absolutely wrecked. The silver that should have been a blessing became a systemic poison. The consumer giant versus the producer rivals. The mistakes went even deeper. Instead of investing that silver into building industries or upgrading their hardware, Spain just spent it on imports. They bought everything from their rivals. Italian merchants, Dutch traders, and German craftsmen got rich selling luxuries to Spain, and they were paid in American silver. Spain became a consumer empire instead of a producer empire. They figured, why build factories when we can just wait for the treasure fleet to arrive? Meanwhile, their rivals were taking every coin they stole or earned from Spain and reinvesting it into their own systems. And then there were the wars. The Hapsburg monarchs saw themselves as the defenders of the faith, and that mission had a terrifying price tag. American silver-funded wars against the Ottomans suppressed the Dutch revolt and fueled the French wars of religion. The legendary Spanish Armada of 1588, a massive fleet designed to crush Protestant England, was built with New World silver. When that armada failed, it wasn't just a military loss. It was a massive financial shock to the system. Debt addiction and pirate malware. Spain wasn't just spending what arrived. They were borrowing against treasure that hadn't even been mined yet. Banking families like the Fuggers in Germany and financiers in Genoa gave the crown massive loans secured by future silver shipments. In theory, it looked like a solid subscription model based on Potosí's silver. In practice, it was suicide. If a fleet was late, wrecked in a storm, or caught by a rival, Spain defaulted. And they defaulted a lot, 4 times in the 16th century alone. Imagine being the richest guy on the planet and declaring bankruptcy every 20 years. That was the Spanish reality. And then came the pirates. They weren't just random thieves, they were tools of economic warfare. England and the Netherlands realized that if you hit the treasure fleets, you didn't just steal the silver. Sen i Spanien kredisinitjuk ertjorden. Sir Francis Drake once returned to England with Spanish treasure, worth half of England's entire annual revenue. In 1628, the Dutch pirate Piet Hein captured an entire fleet worth billions in today's money. These weren't just bad days at sea. They were sovereign defaults in real time. Systems versus treasure. Who won the future? Spain's rulers treated silver like a never-ending fountain, but their rivals, the English and the Dutch, understood that real power comes from systems. Spain relied on extraction, tribute, and treasure fleets, finite resources. The rivals built trade networks, banks, the stock exchange, and industry self-replicating systems. By the mid-1600s, Spain still looked huge on a map, but the core was hollow. Inflation had eaten the prosperity of the people, and debt had handcuffed the crown to foreign bankers. For a regular Spaniard, the silver in Seville didn't mean anything, because bread prices were through the roof. The lesson for the hidden ledger. Look, Spain's fall isn't just a story about old kings and wooden ships. It's about the illusion of wealth, whether it comes from a silver mine or a modern printing press. Flooding an economy with money without investing in real productivity will always corrode the foundation of society. Today we watch inflation eat our wages while being told the economy is strong. The mechanisms have changed, but the pain feels the exact same. When Spain collapsed because one fleet got intercepted in 1628, it's no different from a modern too big to fail, bank crashing and taking the whole market with it. Both systems are built on a fragile foundation of trust. The brutal truth is this: treasure is not wealth, silver is not security. Real wealth comes from systems that produce value over time. Spain went bankrupt because they thought owning half the world and endless silver meant they'd be powerful forever. They were wrong. Their rivals played the deeper game and inherited the future. History doesn't repeat, but those rhythms in the hidden ledger are hard to ignore. If a society floods its economy with money while hollowing out its foundation, we already know where that road leads. The only question is, are we going to recognize the warning signs in time,